All right, guys, today is our first day working on EOG review. Today we're going to start on unit rate with complex fractions. So I'm going to start by making myself a chart, and I'm going to label my columns. So I have sugar, and I have cookies. So let's look at the problem. So it says a cookie recipe uses 1/2 of a cup of sugar for 2 dozen cookies. How many cookies can be made from 1 cup of sugar? So I have my 1/2 cup of sugar, and I have 1 cup of sugar, and I know that that's equal to 2 dozen cookies. So I'm going to divide going this way. So 1 divided by 1/2 is 2. Okay, because there's 2 1/2 pieces in one whole. So then I'm going to multiply by 2. So I divide going up, I multiply coming down. 2 times 2 is 4. So that's not an option here, so I've got something else I've got to do. So I've got 4 cookies. Well, that's 4 dozen cookies. So how many are in a dozen? Well, there are 12 cookies in a dozen, right? So 4 times 12 would be 48. Remember, you don't want to use a calculator for this because you're not going to be able to use a calculator on the EOG. For the next part, it says Ben jogged 4.5 miles in 1 1/4 hours at a constant rate. How far did Ben jog in 1 hour? So I have my chart. I've got my miles and my hours. I know that I have 4.5 in 1 1/4, and I want to know how far he jogged in 1 hour. So the 1's going to go here. So I'm going to divide going this way and then multiply coming this way. So I know I'm doing 1 divided by 1 1/4. So 1 divided by 1 1/4. So when I'm dividing fractions, I have to remember to keep, change, flip. So 1 over 1 times, so this would be 1 times 4 plus 1. So I get 5/4. So I have to flip my second fraction, so it'd be 4/5. So then I multiply straight across. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 5 is 5. So 4/5. So I'm going to multiply by 4/5 on this side. So I have 4 1/2 times 4/5. So the first thing I have to do is think about, okay, right now I have a mixed number. The 4.5 is a mixed number. I don't want it to be a mixed number, so I've got to fix it. So I'm going to go what you probably learned in elementary school was around the world. So 4 times 2 plus 1. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9, and I keep my denominator. So this becomes 9/2. So then I'm going to multiply straight across. 9 times 4 is 36. 2 times 5 is 10. So from here, I have to think, okay, how many times does 10 go into 36? 10 goes into 36 3 times with 6/10 left over. So at this point, I'm going to take a look at my answer choices. I can eliminate A. I can eliminate D. So I have to decide if this is the same as 3 3/5 or 3 1/4. Well, 6/10 reduces, so if I divide by 2 in the numerator and the denominator, I get 3/5. So 3 3/5. So my answer has to be B. All right, the next one says, Sherry can make 5 pies in 4 hours. So we're talking about pies and hours. I know she can make 5 pies in 4 hours. I want to know how long it's going to take Sherry to make 16 pies. So I have to remember I'm dividing going this way, and I'm multiplying going this way. So 16 divided by 5. So 16 divided by 5, it goes in 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15, and I'm left with 1 left over. So I have to add my decimal point and my 0. Bring it down. 5 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10, and I'm left with 0. So 3.2. So I'm going to multiply by 3.2. So 3.2 times 4 is going to give me 0.8. 4 times 3 is 12. So I get 12.8. This is going to take me 12 and 8/10 of an hour to make 16 pies. All right, the next one says Bob frosted 4.5 cakes in 3/4 of an hour. At what rate in cakes per hour did he frost the cakes? So I don't have answer choices this time, so I have to think of another strategy. So I'm still going to use my table. I have cakes and I have hours. So I know that 4.5 cakes in 3/4 of an hour. I want to know per hour, so that means for 1 hour. So I'm going to divide going up and then multiply coming down. So 1 divided by 3/4. So 1 divided by 3/4. So I have 1 over 1 times 4 over 3, because remember, when we're dividing by fractions, we keep change flip. So I end up with 4/3. So I'm going to multiply by 4/3 on this side. So now I have 4.5 times 4/3. So I'm going to go around the world, and we talked about that in the last problem. So I multiply on the denominator and I add the numerator. So 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9, and I keep my denominator, so I have 9/2. Then I'm going to multiply straight across. So 9 times 4 is 36, 2 times 3 is 6, and I have to think, okay, how many times does 6 go into 36? 6 times. So I can make 6 cakes in 1 hour. So if I was going to write that out, I can make 6 cakes in 1 hour. Let's try the next one. A bus is traveling at a constant speed. If the bus travels 15.5 miles in 1/3 of an hour, how many miles will the bus travel in 1 hour? So again, I'm making my chart. I have miles and I have hours. So I know I can go 15.5 miles in 1/3 of an hour. I want to figure out how fast I can go in 1 hour. So I'm going to divide going this way and multiply going down. So 1 divided by 1/3, keep, change, flip, 1 times 3 over 1, and I get 3. So I'm going to take 15.5 and multiply it by 3. So I'm going to go around the world, or I'm going to change my mixed number into an improper fraction. 15 times 2 is 30, plus 1 is 31. So 31 over 2 times 3 over 1. And I get 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 3 is 9, so 93 over 2. So that fraction bar tells me that I'm dividing. So 93 divided by 2. 2 goes into 9 4 times with 1 left over. 2 goes into 13 6 times with 1/2 left over. So I can, this bus can go 46.5 miles in 1 hour. So the important thing to think about is if you wanted to, you could set up your division. 2 goes into 9 4 times. 4 times 2 is 8. 2 goes into 13 6 times. 6 times 2 is 12. And I get 1/2. All right, let's check the next one. Jamal runs for the track team. He runs 2/10 of a mile in 1/3 of an hour. What was Jamal's rate of speed? So they want to know per hour. So I'm going to make myself a chart. I've got my miles and I have my hours. I know that he went 2/10 of a mile. I'm sorry, 2 1/10 of a mile in 1/3 of an hour. So I want to figure out how far he can go in 1 hour. So I'm going to divide going up, multiply coming down. So 1 divided by 1/3. So I keep the first fraction and I flip the second one. So I keep, change to multiplication, and flip. So I get 3 over 1. So now I'm going to take 2 1/10 and multiply it by 3. So I'm going to go around the world with my fraction because I have to change it from a mixed number to an improper fraction. 2 times 10 is 20 plus 1 is 21. So I have 21/10 here. From here, I just multiply straight across. So 21 times 3, 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6 over 10. Then I have to think, how many times does 10 go into 63? Well, I know it goes in 6 times with 3 left over because 10 times 6 is 60, and then there's the 3 left over. And I keep my denominator. So 6 3/10. So we can go 6 3/10 of a mile per hour. Jane put a 12-inch tall bucket under a leak in her sink. The big bucket fills at a constant rate of 1/2 inch every 1/6 of an hour. How many hours will it take to fill the bucket? Okay, so I'm going to start with my table. I know I have inches and I know I have hours. I know that it's 1/2 inch for every 1/6 of an hour. And I have a 12-inch tall bucket. So I want to see how long that's going to take me. So I'm going to divide going up, multiply coming down. So 12 divided by 1/2. So I keep, change, flip. 12 over 1 times 2 over 1. I get 24 over 1. So I know I'm multiplying by 24. That's my constant of proportionality. So now I'm going to do 1/6 times 24 over 1. 1 times 24 is 24. 6 times 1 is 6. From here I have to think 24 divided by 6 is what? 4. So it's going to take 4 hours to fill the bucket. The next one says Matthew drove 15.5 miles in a quarter of an hour. What was Matthew's average speed? So I have miles and I have hours. I know that 15.5 in 1/4 of an hour. I want to figure out per hour, so that's for 1. I divide going up, multiply coming down. So 1 divided by 1/4. So that's 1 over 1 times 4 over 1 because I have to keep, change, flip. Then I multiply straight across. So I get 4 over 1. So I'm going to multiply by 4. So I have 15.5 times 4 over 1. I'm going to go around the world with my fraction, change my mixed number into an improper fraction. 15 times 2 is 30. 30 plus 1 is 31. So 31 over 2 times 4 over 1. From there, I'm going to multiply across. So 31 times 4 is 124 divided by 2. So then if I wanted to, I could do a 124, put my 2 here. 2 goes into 12 6 times. I have 4 left over. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. And I get 0. So 62 miles per hour. Susan walked 1 2/3 miles in 1 1/4 hours. How many miles can Susan walk in 1 hour? So I have my miles and hours. So 1 2/3, and then 1 1/4. So I want to figure out in 1 hour. So I divide, and then I'm going to multiply. So I have 1 divided by 1 1/4. So I have to go around the world. 1 times 4 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So I have 5/4. So I'm going to keep, change, flip. 1 over 1 times 4 over 5. So I end up with 4/5. So when I divide, I get 4/5. Over here, I get 4/5. So now I have to do 1 2/3 times 4/5. So again, I have to change it from a mixed number to an improper fraction. 1 times 3 is 3, plus 2 is 5. So I have 5/3 times 4/5. So I multiply across. 5 times 4 is 20. 3 times 5 is 15. Wow, now I got to think, how many times does 15 go into 20? 15 goes into 20 one time with 5 left over, right? Because 20 minus 15 is 5/15. So I'm going to look at my options. I can eliminate A, I can eliminate B, I can eliminate C, because they don't have fractions and it's got to be 1 in something. So it's 1 1/3. Let's see why. So I can divide the 5 by 5, the 15 by 5. I get 1 1/3. Last set. So Brendan used 6 3/4 cups to make 2 1/2 batches of cookies. How many cups of sugar did Braden use per batch of cookies? So we're doing sugar and cookies. So 6 3/4 make 2 1/2 batches. I want to figure out for one batch because it says per batch, which means for one. I divide going up, multiply coming down. So I'm going to do 1 divided by 2 1/2. So I have to go around the world. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So 1 divided by 5/2. So now I keep, change, flip. 1 over 1 times 2 over 5. And I get 2/5. So now I'm going to multiply by 2/5. So 6 3/4 times 2/5. So again, I'm doing 6 times 4 is 24, plus 3 is 27. So 27/4 times 2/5. 27 times 2, I get 54. And then 4 times 5, I get 20. So I have to think to myself, okay, how many times does 20 go into 54? 20 goes into 54 2 whole times with 14/20 left over. So now I'm going to look at my answer choices, see what I can eliminate. I know my whole number is 2, so I think it's B. So let's see why it's B. So I'm pulling out my greatest common factor, which is 2. And I'm left with 2 7/10, because 14 divided by 2 is 7, 20 divided by 2 is 10, which is exactly what it says in the answer choice. Rachel has 1/2 pound of flour in her container. The container is 2/5 full. How many pounds of flour can Rachel fit in the entire container? So I have flour and the container. So I know that 1/2 pound of flour is 2/5 full. So then what would fill the entire container? So one whole container. So I'm dividing going up and multiplying coming down. So 1 divided by 2/5. 1 divided by 2/5. Keep, change, flip. 1 times 5 over 2. I get 5 over 2. So I'm going to multiply by 5 over 2. So now I have 1/2 times 5 over 2. I get 5 over 4. 4 goes into 5 one time. 5 minus 4 is 1/4 left over because I keep my denominator. So I look And my answer is C. Last one we're going to do. It took Melina a third of an hour to ride her bike 2 3/4 of a mile. How many miles per hour can Melina ride her bike? All right, per hour means for 1. So I have miles and hours. I know that 1/3 of a mile is 2 3/4. I want to figure out in 1 hour. Oops, I've got it backwards. That's why you got to really look at those words. So I've got hours and miles. So 1/3 of an hour is 2 3/4. And then I want to know 1 hour. So I'm going to divide going up, multiply coming down. So I'm doing 1 divided by 1/3. So keep, change, flip. 1/1 times 3/1. And I get 3/1, which is 3. So I'm going to multiply by 3. So I'm doing 2 3/4 times 3. I have to go around the world. So 2 times 4 is 8, plus 3 is 11. So I have 11/4 times 3/1. 11 times 3 is 33. 4 times 1 is 4. So now I have to think, how many times does 4 go into 33? 8 times. 4 times 8 is 32. So 33 minus 32 is 1/4 left over. 8 1/4. So she can ride her bike 8 1/4 miles per hour. So I need you to choose one of the cool downs that you're going to complete and submit it. You're going to email it to me if you're at home, because I'm going to be collecting it on paper if you're here at school. If you've got questions, just let me know. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.